Hi, and welcome to KET's News Quiz. I'm your host, Kelsey Starks. There's a chill in the air, and the leaves are changing colors. We hope you're enjoying your fall so far. Let's get going with today's challenge question, which covers a number of breeds. Canis familiaris is the scientific name for what animal? If you break those words down, you may be able to guess this one if you don't already know it. It's a mammal that comes in lots of different sizes. Some can fit in a teacup, while others can almost be ridden like a horse. You will sometimes hear these animals referred to as canines. Can you think of it? Canis familiaris is the scientific name for what animal? We'll have that answer for you after the news. Topping our news this week, voting in the 2020 U.S. presidential election has begun, and millions of voters have already cast their ballots. Thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, many, but not all states are offering early in-person voting opportunities. Here in Kentucky, voting machines were made available starting October 13th, 3 weeks before Election Day. In several states, voters have waited for hours to place their vote. Lines have been seen roping around buildings where election workers are encouraging voters to social distance, wear masks, and be patient. A few states have moved to all mail-in votes. Registered voters had to order their ballots by early October and must return them to official collection boxes or mail them in by November 3rd, which is the actual election day. Officials say the early voting, absentee, and mail-in ballots will make it tougher to count all the votes. But if the options encourage voters to cast their ballots, it should be a positive experience for this unusual year. Well, we know it has been months since the pandemic started. Here in the U.S., quarantines began back in March. With the uncertain times, what are you doing to relax? Studies have found that getting outside and into nature can help. In Europe, the use of parks and green space has gone up more than 25% since quarantines began. Researchers believe that open space has helped city residents in particular. They also say being outdoors, getting fresh air, and just being in an open space helps our bodies both mentally and physically. Here in the U.S., parents are using hiking, nature walks, and trips to the park as entertainment. Even at home, you may be enjoying some outdoor time during the day as recess or a physical education class. All right, take a deep breath. It's time for the first part of today's quiz. You can cast your votes in questions 1 and 2. Question 1. To vote early in the 2020 presidential election, voters can use A, in-person voting, B, mail-in ballots, or C, both A and B. Question 2 is true or false. All states are offering early in-person voting opportunities. Is that statement true or false? Questions 3 and 4 are a breath of fresh air. Question 3. Researchers believe outdoor time has especially benefited people who live in A, cities, B, apartments, or C, the mountains. And question 4. Parents are using the outdoor time as A, punishment, B, recess, or C, math class. Back to the news. October 16th marked the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's World Food Day. Millions of people around the globe are assisted by this organization each year, but 2020 has been rough and has had a terrible effect on their efforts. The pandemic has disrupted national economies, stalled important transportation and delivery services, and other natural disasters have cut farming and food supplies severely. The United Nations group is using the 75th anniversary to issue a global challenge to all nations to confront hunger in every country. Have you ever heard of an Allosaurus? This dinosaur is an ancestor of the more famous Tyrannosaurus rex. A number of Allosaurus skeletons have been found around the world. One of those was sold in an auction in Paris, France. This particular skeleton was found on a ranch in Wyoming in 2016. The 150-million-year-old fella stands over 11 feet tall and is around 32 feet long, one of the largest Allosauruses ever found. The buyer paid almost $3 million for the Jurassic skeleton. Travel has been very limited over the past few months, especially for tourists. A Japanese man traveled to Peru in March and wanted to visit Machu Picchu. Peru is a country on the northwestern coast of South America. The capital of Peru is Lima. It is home to a portion of the Amazon rainforest and the Andes Mountains. High in the Andes is the Incan fortress known as Machu Picchu. Jesse Katayama had a ticket to visit Machu Picchu on March 15th, but the park closed that day because of COVID-19. Then the country implemented strict travel restrictions, and Jesse was stuck. He stayed in Peru, and finally, just last week, the Peruvian government rewarded him with a private tour of the Incan ruins. And now here's the second part of today's quiz. Question 5 offers a global challenge. The Food and Agriculture Organization is part of the A, United Nations, B, European Union, or C, World Trade Organization. Question 6 is about the big sale. The dinosaur skeleton sold at that Paris auction was A, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, B, an Allosaurus, or C, a Brontosaurus. And take a tour with question 7. Locate Peru, home of Machu Picchu, on the map. Is it at point A, B, or C? In other news, coastal areas in New England are debating about seals. Gray seals were once almost extinct off the coast of Massachusetts. Over the past 30 years, they've been protected, and now there are thousands of them. Fishermen in the area say the animals are eating a lot of their profits, but researchers and scientists say they don't believe that's true. They need to study the numbers of fish in that part of the ocean to see if there's really an impact. On the other side of the debate are tourist and travel businesses that are benefiting from seal watchers. Their income has increased thanks to the sea animals enjoying the beaches. With our environment in mind, a group in England is testing out a device that would help clean our air and recycle rubber particles from worn tires. You may not realize that tiny particles of rubber come off of vehicle tires every time a car, truck, or bike is rolling, and that's normal wear and tear. But those particles go into the air and they can be breathed into our lungs. Well, a group called the Tire Collective has designed a device that works like a magnet, attracting many of those particles and capturing them before they are released in the air. They're working on a way to attach the devices near vehicle tires, and they need to determine what to do with that particulate matter, the tire residue, once it's collected. They hope it can be used to make new tires, recycling at its best. Well, from tires to evening gowns, the 2021 Spring-Summer Fashion Week had its own makeover thanks to COVID. Designers had to find creative ways to debut their clothing lines without in-person fashion shows. One designer, Jeremy Scott, created smaller versions of his fashions and put them on marionettes, puppets controlled by strings. He and his staff recorded the marionette models walking the runway in front of well-known critics, also, of course, in puppet form. While there were still some in-person events in New York, Paris, France, and London, England, most designers were depending on virtual presentations to show off their creations. Most said it took extra ingenuity, but they've learned some lessons that can be used well into the future. We'll check your lessons with the final part of today's quiz. Question 8 is about the New England argument. The sea animals at the center of that Massachusetts debate are A, sharks, B, swordfish, or C, seals. Question 9 is rolling along. The British group has created a device that attracts and collects worn residue from A, balloons, B, tires, or C, skateboards. And question 10 is a top model. Fashion designer Jeremy Scott modeled his clothing line with A, marionettes, B, mannequins, or C, porcelain dolls. Quiz break time. Let's find out some more of your opinion question suggestions. Tori is a third grader at Falling Waters Elementary in Nebraska, and she wants us to ask you, if you could be in a Disney movie, which would you pick? That is a tough one, Tori. Sebastian attends Roseland Park Elementary's 4th grade in Mississippi. He asks, If you could have superpowers, what would they be? Sebastian says he would use his powers to do good and save people. That's good. Ramus is a fourth grader at Cochran Elementary in Louisville, Kentucky with an environmental query. If you could bring one extinct animal back to life, what would it be? That could be scary. But fun. Tessa from Red Cross Elementary's fourth grade in Barron County, Kentucky is thinking about the future with her question, what dream job do you want when you get older? I really like that one. And Emerson rounds out our fourth grade list from St. Augustine School in Lebanon, Kentucky. This question means a lot to us. What is your favorite part of News Quiz? Well, one of mine is hearing from all of you. Thanks to all of you who sent us your ideas, great ideas all across the board. Our News Quiz team enjoyed reading those suggestions as well. Hey, we may poll you in the coming weeks to learn your favorites too. But here's one we really like from Hensley at Lincoln Trail Elementary, and we hope you'll enjoy answering this question. What book character would you like to meet? Why would you choose that character? The character can be from fiction or nonfiction. Doesn't even have to be a person. If you like an animal or even an alien creature, that could be an interesting meet and greet too. So share with us, what book character would you like to meet, and tell us why. Send your letters to us at newsquiz@ket.org, or you can use the form at ket.org/newsquiz. Just be sure to include your name, grade, school, and teacher's name in your response. Can't wait to read those. All right, time now to get a look at today's answers. Were you able to sniff out the correct one for our challenge question? That's a talent some dogs have, and that is the more common name for the Canis familiaris. More specifically, that's the scientific name for a dog that's been tamed or domesticated. One underdog got a very special honor recently from People magazine. Lamb Chop is a Maltese who was rescued from a Wisconsin animal shelter. Magazine readers voted her the world's cutest rescue dog. Lamb Chop's owner says the pooch has overcome a lot of mistreatment and health issues, but now is a playful, loving part of her family. All right, are you ready for the rest of today's answers? Here we go. The answer to question 1 is C. Both in-person voting and mail-in ballots are helping registered voters. The answer to question 2 is false. Not all states are offering in-person early voting opportunities. The answer to question 3 is A. People who live in cities have especially benefited from extra time outdoors. The answer to question 4 is B. Recess is a way parents are using outdoor time with those at-home students. The answer to question 5 is A. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization works to battle hunger. The answer to question 6 is B. An Allosaurus skeleton was recently sold in Paris, France. The answer to question 7 is A. Peru is located at A on the map. The answer to question 8 is C. Gray seals are causing the debate. The answer to question 9 is B. Rubber particles from vehicle tires are the focus of the Tire Collective. And the answer to question 10 is A. Marionettes were used to walk Jeremy Scott's fashions down the runway. Last but not least today, the Chester Zoo in England was happily surprised this summer when a baby orangutan was born there. They didn't know the mom, named Leah, was expecting a baby. Mom and baby are doing just fine, and that's great news because both are Bornean orangutans, a critically endangered species. That's it for us today. We hope you join us again next week for more News Quiz. Bye.